This is Scout, and she's an awfully good-looking girl, and she's one of our puppy class graduates. And I'm here working with her because she has actually a dog aggression issue. Now, real quick, if you saw she put her paw on me, that's a dominance move. So if you're petting your dog and puts a paw on you, immediately stop petting. That's not what the purpose of this video, but I just call them as I see them. So in this video, we're going to go over how to teach your dog to look away. Hopefully, I haven't done this with her. We'll see how she cooperates. By using a little operant conditioning, or free shaping, excuse me. Scout. Yes, you want to get the treat. Now, I'm going to use a clicker for this, and because she's never used a clicker, I'm going to talk about how you can use a clicker first. Before you use a clicker, you need to prime the clicker, which I'm going to show you in a second. Now, a couple of things not to do. A lot of people it's not a remote control, so you should never do that or do it to get your dog's attention. The click is to indicate the exact second that you did something that I like, and I'm going to get a treat or reward to you as soon as I possibly can. This is especially helpful for dogs that are having difficulty learning or really quick twitch dogs. If I'm trying to teach my dog to put its paw across his nose, well, and how do I do that? I have to wait for the dog. I can lure the dog into doing that, or I can wait for the dog if it scratches his nose. When I go like that, oh, nose. Well, the dog doesn't know exactly what part. Was it raising it? Was it touching those or coming down that got me the treat? So when I use the click, as soon as it touches, that's when I click. So that's to indicate, it's really to indicate precision. But in order to do this, we first need to prime the clicker to help the dog have a positive association with it. Scout, come here. So what I'm going to do is I have a handful of treats here, and I've cut them in half because of priming. We don't need a full reinforcer. I just throw it on the ground. Throw it on the ground. So usually I want to do this for about 10 treats, about 3 times a day, so maybe 3 to 5 times a day, for a day or two. Now you can do them individually like that, or you can do something like this, where I take like 3 or 4 treats. So basically it's to indicate that you just did what I wanted you to do. So it's important that you prime the clicker first so the dog makes that association. All right, so continue priming the clicker after I leave, and then I'll do this right up and you'll be able to watch the video for it. But in this video, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to hopefully use free shaping to teach Scout to look away from me. So Scout, come here. So free shaping is just waiting for the dog to do the behavior on its own, and then you reward it. So she's looking at me. I'd like her to look to the side. There we go. So I'm just waiting for her to do the thing that I want on her own. Now, she doesn't know to do that, so I'm just waiting for her to look towards you. So that didn't get the treat. That didn't get the treat. I'm sniffing the ground. That's sniffing, so it didn't get it. And free shaping, you just have to have a lot of patience. So that was not the best look away, but at first, we're going to have very low criteria. All she has to do is just kind of a little bit of what we want. Now she's looking to her right. I could assign it right or left or look or something like that. I want to assign a command word. At this point, I'm just giving her the reward when she does the activity and clicking to let her know that's the activity I wanted, and I get a reward right away. What we should start seeing is her looking away faster and faster. And that was a little look. So again, low criteria to begin with, but eventually I might want a full 90-degree look before I click for her. But at first we just do, there we go. Now, you want to come up with a word that means to look away. Now, right there, one of the guardians is sitting just right off the camera view and made a little bit of coughing sound. I think that's what she was looking at. And so you want to try to do it without doing that. At first, it's okay if that sort of thing happens. Don't do it intentionally, but it's okay if it happens. Now, when you're doing this, make sure you have a copious amount of treats. I was going to say plethora. Those are 2 of my favorite words. Because you want to just be very liberal about your application. Now you see her attention is looking right here at the treats. So I'm just waiting. And try not to fidget with your hands. And just wait. If your dog really is focused on your hand, you might put your hand behind your back or next to your thigh like this. So the idea is eventually we want to use this so when she sees another dog, we can tell her to avert her eyes by looking away. But we're doing this here without another dog, because another dog, she wants to stare at it. So I'm missing some of these opportunities while I'm kind of narrating. So I'm just going to keep waiting. And so Now, in this situation, she's facing me, she's turning to her right. In other situations, you want to have her turn to her left. So we just want her to look away. Now, I'm giving her a little eye contact. Sometimes that can lock them in. There we go. So, and then you're gonna come up with a word that means, to look away. So, avert your eyes is too many words, but you want kind of something like that. And sitting is probably going to be better than laying down. I just went with it because that's what she was doing. But normally when she's going to be encountering another dog, she's going to be sitting or standing. So we prefer she's in that particular state. That wasn't quite enough for me. We're looking for higher criteria at this point because you kind of know what you're doing. There we go. Now again, we had some friendly sound outside that caused her to look away, but we went ahead. It was still the end result I'm looking for. Okay, so what we want to do is start assigning a command word. So maybe you just say gaze is your command word. Come up with a funny word, or voyeur means to look away. That's kind of funnier. So you just keep on doing this, and so to assign the command word, what I would do, I'll show you on this one. Voyeur. Voyeur. So I'm clicking the instant she does what I want. I'm getting her a treat as soon as I can after that. And when after the treat goes in her mouth, I'm saying the command word of voyeur. Voyeur. So now we want to practice this in the house until when she's looking at you, you say voyeur, she turns her head to the side, either way. So once your dog can do this, then what we want to do is we want to create a situation where we can get her to look away from another dog rather than running and attacking it. Now, a lot of dogs I find are, sometimes they're doing it insecure, sometimes they do it for protection reasons. We spend a bunch of time off camera talking about why she might be doing this, because there's a little bit of the reason why can impact what we're going to try to do. But really, a lot of dogs, they see the other dog. Oh, I see another dog. I'm going to lower my head and look at the other dog. I'm going to lick my lips a little bit, which is a sign of stress. I might kind of do an Elvis, show my teeth, or yawn a little bit, or my ears might come forward or flip all the way back. My head might lower. I'm staring either directly at the dog or looking away. We call this avoidance. You might see a lot of whale eye, a lot of white of her eyes really big, pupils very dilated, dog stiff, breathing very heavily or holding its breath, tail straight up. Those are all warning signs. So every dog, they don't necessarily use the whole catalog of those. Some dogs, she might use 4 of those. So identifying what her warning signs are, because what she's saying to the other dog, and the other dog starts approaching, she like freezes and slows down and stares indirectly. She's saying, hey, I don't like what you're doing. And if the other dog keeps on coming, she might kind of bare her teeth. The ears might come forward. Dog comes a little closer. The hackles on her back go up. That's one I forgot. Tail comes up. She's having a conversation saying, the closer you get, the more upset I'm getting. I'm not lashing out. Most of us wait until the dog's lashing out and we think that's the genesis. That's actually like the 10th or 20th step of it. So sometimes one of the little tricks that I do sometimes is I'll have somebody filming the dog when we expose it to another dog at a great distance so we can actually recognize what the dog's warning signs are so you know what to look for. So what we're going to look for, the next thing we're going to look for is you're going to have to find somebody who has a dog that she would normally be reactive to. And what we want to do is create a scenario. Now we can do a couple different things, and in our puppy class we taught a focus exercise. So we can use the focus or the look away, either one for this. So what we do is I have Scout here on a leash, and I have the other dog. We have to figure out first of all what distance that dog can be. So I'd put the dog Scout into a sit, and make sure that she's looking in the direction of the other dog. And then I would have the other dog appear from maybe 100 yards out of, before it wasn't visible. Then suddenly appears and there's not other distractions around. So Scout can see the dog, but it's 100 feet away. And we have the dog keep marching towards us until Scout stands up. That's usually an indication that Scout's like, okay, that dog is now getting close enough to me to be what I perceive to be a threat. So now I'm going to stand up, so I'm in an action position. Scout, come, or here. Scout. So my little tricks to get dogs to come. Here. This looks better when I have a dog on the camera. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a Scout sitting and give her treats every once in a while as that other dog is approaching. And when the other dog gets up, that person needs to stop with their dog. And that dog should be on a leash as well. And also try to find a dog who's not super crazy like Ellie was in our class, just a medium energy dog, or if it's a higher energy dog that's been exercised. So it's not going bonkers because that'll make her reactive a lot greater distance. So let's say that we're at 50 yards or 50 feet before she stands up. The whole point of this exercise is to practice without her reacting. So then now we know the distance is 50 yards for this particular dog. So what we do is we look for a scenario where, let's say that I'll use the TV. Let's say that there's a building here. And so I'm here with Scout, and we have the other dog tucked around the building so we can't see. So what we have the other dog do is come and walk out here, and again, it's 50 feet between us. And when it comes out here, you give Scout 1 or 2 seconds, and if she doesn't do it automatically, then you give her your, what do we say, gaze or voyeur. So as soon as you give her 2 seconds, if she doesn't look away on her own, then say, and you're standing, I'm standing over here with Scout, and Scout's looking this direction. So I say voyeur, and then after 2 seconds, I give Scout 2 seconds to do it on her own. And if she doesn't, I say voyeur, she looks at me, I click, and then give her a treat. And as soon as she looks away, this dog walks back here behind the deal. When the dog is approaching, she's staring, and that's what she doesn't want. So she's staring, getting ready to retort or react or whatever it is. So what we do is we teach her, when another dog's coming, we want you to look away from that dog. And when you look away from that dog, you're going to get a reward. And then when you look back, that dog has disappeared. So that's what she wants. So when the dog is coming, if she looks away, she gets a reward. And when she looks back, the dog has disappeared. And that's all we want her to accomplish at this first stage, is just look away and have the dog. And so what we're teaching her is, if you don't like the dog approaching, if you look away from the dog, that dog will disappear. Now, that's not going to happen the rest of her life, but initially when we're doing this, we're going to create the scenario because she's saying, I don't like that dog approaching me for whatever reason. So now we teach her, and what will happen eventually, the dog will come out of here. That's why we give her 2 seconds. And eventually, the dog will come out of here, and she'll look away from the other dog and look at you. When she does this, this is what we call an auto look or an auto watch. So the first time she does it, I would give her like 5 treats. Voyeur, 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 voyeur. And voyeur is probably not the right sound. Another word that means to look away. Come up with something funny. Especially when you have dog aggression, always come up with funny command words because you already have tension. And if you say something like, 3D, and she looks away, if it's funny, that can help break the cycle of the tension that we have going on. So the idea is, at 50 yards, we get to the point where now 5 times in a row this dog pops out, and as soon as it pops out, Scout looks away. Well, then what we do is we go to 49 feet and practice the same scenario until we get 5 times in a row the Scout automatically looks away. And then 48, 47, 46. As you practice this, you'll get to a point where, you get to 40, and now Scout won't look away. Well, she's saying that dog is now, that's my new breaking point, is 40 yards, and I don't feel comfortable looking away. I have to keep my eye on that dog in case it comes over to try to take advantage. So then we would back up to maybe 41 feet, practice one, so we have a good successful, always want to end on a good one, and then we call it a day. And then we take note, we were at 41 feet. So we come back later that day or the next day, and we repeat it, and we start at 42 feet or 41 feet, and we gradually collapse that distance until eventually we can be within a couple feet. Now, dogs have 3 zones. They have intimate space, which is a 3-foot bubble. They're very particular into who comes in their personal space or their intimate space. Then there's public space or social space, which is considered 3 feet to 11 feet. They're also particular, but not as particular who comes in that zone. And anything beyond 11 feet is what's called social space or public space. Basically, for your dog, just like us, the closer someone gets to us, the more we're going to pay attention to them if we perceive them to be a threat or we don't like them for whatever reason. So when you start getting into that 11 feet or lesser distance, that sometimes takes a little bit longer. You may need to practice a little bit more. But this is called a cutoff signal, turning away. And so what we're doing is we're rewarding Scout for turning away. So if I as a dog psychologist, I know what to look for. So if I go to meet a dog on the street and I reach for the dog and it turns its head away, it's saying, I don't feel comfortable with you touching me. Most humans don't know this anyways. We pet the dog anyways. Well, if I'm on a date with a girl and I go to reach for her hand and she pulls her hand back, she's telling me I'm not ready for that particular stage yet. If I just go ahead and grab her hand anyways, I'm communicating, I'm not listening to you. And she's going to be less likely, that's going to probably increase the distance or the time it's going to take before she's going to feel comfortable holding my hand. But if I go like this and she pulls away, if she starts to pull away and I pull my arm back before she retracts all the way, she's like, he listened to me. I have some trust in this individual now. And so it's the same thing for the dog. So for dogs, if a dog is approaching another dog and that other dog turns its head away, that's a cutoff move. That's saying, I'm uncomfortable with you approaching. Like I talked about off camera, front facing is confrontational. So usually if your dog turns away, that'll take the other dog pause or stop if the dog is socially adept. And so now we're teaching Scout, because when Scout acts aggressive towards other dogs, in my experience, when dogs act aggressive towards other dogs, what they're saying is, I don't feel comfortable with you this close to me. And I found that if I act tough and aggressive, it causes you to move away, and that increases the distance between us. Well, there's other ways to accomplish that. Give a cutoff signal, and the other dog walks away. So we can actually teach dogs coping skills. So instead of, and I actually have gone through this with one of my dogs personally, where he does not like people putting their face in his face. He's comfortable until you get about here, and he'll snap at you. Well, because you get here, he gets stiff. You get a little bit closer here, he bares his teeth a little bit. You get even closer. People just ignore it. Well, then he has to escalate. Well, so what I'm doing is teaching him the same thing I'm teaching here, is teaching the dog to look away. And first we have to teach the dog what the command word is and how to do it. But eventually we want to put the dog in a scenario where the dog, just like free shaping, when the dog looks away on its own, it gets rewarded. And we kind of jumpstart it by teaching the dog this technique without the other people around. But the important thing is the dog cannot react. So if Scout starts barking, lunging, growling, any sort of auditory or any clear to identify protest, you put too far, push too far, too fast, and it will invalidate all your work. That's the biggest mistake people make with this sort of training, is they push the dog past its limits, and then it's practicing reacting and being aggressive towards the dog. What we're essentially doing is helping the dog practice not being aggressive, and a communication move to say, oh, no thank you, I'm good, please don't come any closer. The more we do this, eventually the dog will start offering those cutoff signals on its own, and then we don't have to manage the dog, and eventually the dog feels empowered. When another dog's approaching, I turn my head aside and they leave me alone. And now when that happens enough, after a while it's like, well, maybe I'm curious what they're all about. The other dog's always foisted upon me that I don't have any choice. I don't like playing golf, because when I was a kid, my dad forced me to play golf, and my dad loves playing golf. That's his passion. I could have been passionate about it, but because I had to do junior golf, and then some days my dad would play golf after with me, I would be at the swimming pool with my friends, but now I'm playing 36 holes of golf at a 14-year-old. And because I was forced to do it, I don't like it. But if I was hanging out at a clubhouse and I had the ability to go golfing, I might have liked doing that. It's the same sort of thing for the dog. We don't want to force them to be around other dogs, and that's a lot of times what we do. Instead, what we're doing is we're creating scenarios where the dog can make the other dogs move away, and now you're not interested in me. It's kind of like dating. If somebody's interested in you, you don't want to date them. You're not interested, they want to date you. So it's the same sort of thing with the dog. Well, that dog doesn't want to be all about me. Well, now I'm curious what they're all about. Now, when we get to the point where we're actually starting to interact with other dogs, and we have a dog that's had a history of aggression, we might want to incorporate a muzzle in that last stage when we're getting them really close. So if the dog doesn't give the cutoff signal or doesn't hear it, it's safe, and that will help psychologically for the humans. However, dogs learn through association, repetition, and good timing. If you put a muzzle on me, and every time you put a muzzle on me, you put me around another dog, now I'm like, well, now I can't protect myself with my mouth, and the only time that I get that I'm around other dogs, this muzzle's on me. So this muzzle means I would be put in a stressful situation. So for the muzzle, you want to have the dog practice wearing the muzzle in the house without any other dogs around. So that becomes normal, and also create positive associations. Now I have videos on my website that show you how to do that. So if you have any questions, you want to get to that stage, let me know, and I can share a video. This one's rather long, so I'm going to kind of summarize this one here. But let us know when you get to that point. And you might get to that point where, you know what? Scout's energy is nice and relaxed. We're not seeing any of those signals. So remember to record her, have somebody videotaping her one of the times you're doing this when you're walking towards, or anytime you're out with a dog, just so you can see what her warning signs are and know what to look for. But if you go slow and steady, you will help her develop skills that will help her for the rest of her life. Scout, come. Or here. Here we go. Let's everybody see what you look like at home. This is Scout. Boy, isn't she a pretty puppy. And this is how you can use free shaping to teach your dog to look away, as well as some bonus tips on how to help your dog practice cutoff signals as opposed to being aggressive towards other dogs.